In this video, I'm going to show how to overlay your flight tracks onto approach plates so you can look back and see how you did after a flight. The starting point for this video is a KML file from your last flight. If you don't know how to generate a KML file, there's a good chance your electronic flight bag already has this capability built in. I prefer to use Avair as my EFB, due mostly to it being free and having built-in support for flyover approach plates and airport taxi diagrams. But I've heard that ForeFlight can also generate KMLs, and I suspect a lot of other EFBs probably can as well. If you're having trouble getting your preferred EFB to generate a KML file, since Avair is free, you can always just install it on a phone, start it before the flight, chuck it in the back seat, forget about it, and then email the KML to yourself after the flight is done. Once you've got your KML file, the next thing you need is a georeferenced copy of the approach plate. Georeferenced just means that it has information embedded in it about where it is on the Earth. Now, the FAA has been distributing georeferenced approach plates for years now, so they're not that hard to come by. I prefer to get them through SkyVector. So to get an approach plate from SkyVector, just go to skyvector.com, and then I like to zoom in as close as I can here to an airport, and type in, go up to the little search box at the left, and in my case I flew the, I'm going to show the approach into Wright Brothers Airport, so that's Kilo Mike Golf Yankee. And it centers us on Wright Brothers. And then right-click over the airport, click on the link here, and this is going to open up the airport information page. Scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll see the approach plates. Now, in my case, I flew the RNAV Runway 2 approach. So let's save this link, and let's, for convenience, put it in the same folder where my KML file is. Click Save. And now I have a georeferenced PDF of this approach. Now that we've got the KML file and the georeferenced approach plate, we can use QGIS to put the KML on top of the approach plate. So let's start QGIS. And when we first start QGIS, we're going to see this recent projects thing. Let's click New Project because we don't care about any old projects. And now we see our three primary panes. So on the upper left, we have a little browser panel, which we're going to use to find the files that we want to load. We have a layers panel, which we can use to stack them on top of each other. And then we have the main panel here on the right side, which is where stuff's actually going to show up. Now, it's probably worth calling out at this point this little code down here at the bottom right. This is called the coordinate reference system, or the formula that's used to project the Earth's surface onto a two-dimensional grid. Now, you shouldn't have to worry about this too much, which is a good thing because there's literally thousands of them to choose from. But I'm drawing your attention to it here because if you're having any issues that related to things being distorted or not scaled correctly, or for some reason your KML shows up on the opposite side of the world as your approach plate, then there's a good chance that this number down here is incorrect, and you should double check and make sure that it matches what you're seeing in the video. Next step is to load the KML file and the approach plate into our content pane. So let's browse to where we put those files. In my case, I put them under Home in a folder called My Flight. And let's do the KML file first. So to load something in, we just double click it, and we see this little box pops up. It has two layers are embedded inside this KML file. This could be different from one program to another. Depending on what you use to generate your KML file, you might see different things here. In my case, Avair generates a set of points, which are the points that it actually collected where the airplane was at each point in time, and then a line string, which is the connection of the dots. So I'm going to select all, click OK, and now I have two layers here. Now, if it looks a little funny, that's because this is 4 laps on the RNAV too, so that's why it looks like we've got the same line kind of overlaid here multiple times. If we uncheck the box for the point layer, it actually starts to look a little bit more clear. We can also do some improvements to how it decided to display things for us, so let's right-click and click Properties. I want to make that line a different color and a little bit thicker. So let's go with green and yeah, about 0.86 should be a little bit more attractive. Okay, so now we've got a thicker line and we can see the 4 laps pretty clearly now. And that's our KML. So now let's load the PDF. We load the PDF the same way. We just come up here, double click it, and we see the PDF has been dropped in. It put it on top of the currently active layers, so that's why it hid the flight path that was behind it. We can move it to the back, and now we see the flight path overlaid on top of the PDF. We can also right click here and click zoom to layer, and that's going to center up or rescale the viewport so that it fits the entire PDF of the approach plate. And it looks a little bit stretched in the horizontal direction. That's because of that number down here that I was talking about before. We probably want to use a different projection, so we can right click over the PDF and tell QGIS to set the project coordinate reference system from the layers coordinate reference system. So let's click that, and that cleaned it up a little bit, so now it looks a lot more natural. Once we've done that, we're basically done. We can now zoom in here and pan around. And we also have the option to save as a PNG. So let's say we want to export this view and save it as a PNG file. We now have a PNG that we can post somewhere or save in some folder for reference that captures our flight path overlaid on top of the approach plate. Doesn't require any special software to view. Another cool thing you can do with QGIS that you're probably going to want to try is go up here to this plugins window and click Manage and Install Plugins, and install the Open Layers plugin. In my case, I've already installed it, so I'm clicking Reinstall instead of Install. And then once you've done that, you can go up to the Web option, and you're going to have this little Open Layers plugin context menu. And what this allows you to do is take a lot of different map sources and overlay them on top of your flight path and your approach plate, just like you did with the KML and the PDF. So as an example here, let's pick OpenStreetMaps, and let's just drop that on there. And let's put it all the way in the back. And we can see that now we've got our approach plate overlaid on top of an OpenStreetMap. We can do the same thing with something like Google Earth. And let's use the satellite. Can ignore that warning message. Drop that there. And you can kind of get an idea for how accurate this is. Let's turn off the approach plate and zoom in here a little bit farther. Turn off OpenStreetMap too. And you can actually see the route that I taxied back for parking. Also, sometimes QGIS can render a little bit slowly, so if you're panning around and you don't want to keep paying that price, you can uncheck the render option, and then it's instant, but it doesn't repaint. And then once you're ready to have it repaint or re-render, you just check the box, and it'll do it again. So that's basically it. That's how you overlay a flight path onto an approach plate using QGIS.